What's going on, guys? It's your boy Will from I Will Crypto here with the first episode of Gaming on the Block, our new podcast that we're doing talking all about Web3 gaming. And I'm guested with two amazing gentlemen. First off, TSG and Annie Mositas, also known as Annie Knows. And you guys, I'm excited about this. We're going to get this podcast started right now, talk a lot about Web3 gaming. And I thought we'd start off with a quick intro and introduce ourselves. So TSG, why don't you start off?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, man. Yo, I'm so excited for this podcast. We've been working hard, trying to get all the things together. And I'm really excited, man. I feel like it's going to be a lot of fun kind of catching up every week and talking about the things that are going on about Web3 gaming, just stuff in crypto, just news that's popping around. So it'll be cool to share our thoughts on it as well and kind of just get different perspectives. So I'm really excited. A bit about myself. This is going to be on my channel. So if you're watching, I'm going to assume you kind of know who I am. If you don't, my name is TSG, and I make content primarily around NFT gaming. Right now, more specifically about Illuvium, but I will be expanding and touching on other things like Big Time and other games that come out. But yeah, that's me, and I'm really excited, man. Annie, do you want to do a little intro as well? And yo, Will, we need to get you to do an intro as well.
We will.
Yeah.
Annie, take it off.
Absolutely, guys. We got to let Will go last. The alpha always goes last. So I'm super excited about this as well. We've been talking about this for a few weeks, and I think this is a real need for the Web3 gaming space. There are a lot of different voices out there. There's a lot of different content creators. Most of them are focused on individual games, and I think that if you're interested in Web3 gaming in general, and especially if you're interested in a lot of different types of games, you need to get different perspectives. And I think, have the ability to provide that with this group here. We've all got kind of different focuses, some a little bit more maybe gameplay specific, some more kind of meta game, some philosophical. And so, we're going to have a little bit of everything here for you if you're interested in the space. And a little bit of background for myself. So as mentioned, my name is Annie, and I've been in crypto for about a year now, and really am focused almost 100% purely on Web3 gaming. So I do appreciate the concepts of decentralization, and I believe that Web3 gaming is the gateway drug to decentralization for billions of people in the future. And so, I want to make sure that we can support our builders, whether they're developing the games or the infrastructure that's going to be necessary to enable that. So, Will, why don't you share a little bit with the audience about yourself?
Oh, you guys, I'm so excited just hearing you guys talk about this. I can't wait to do this every week, talking with you guys, talking more Web3 gaming. All right, yeah, so as I said, Will, from I Will Crypto, I'm relatively new to the Web3 space, but not new to gaming at all. And I've been creating content for the past 3 years, and I want to take that experience and kind of educate myself on the Web3 space, but also take that gaming perspective, like a gamer's perspective on all these Web3 games, because I feel there's so much tokenomics, all that I don't know that much about, but you guys definitely know more than me. And in my opinion, if a Web3 game is going to do really well and the Web3 space is going to grow all of it, then we can't just be talking about tokenomics and crypto and all that, because that will not get more gamers to jump on board and play the games. It has to be fun to play. They have to simply understand it. And I'm super excited about it. So you guys, we're going to do this every single week. We're going to get weekly podcast episodes released. And a lot has happened in the past few weeks since we've been talking about getting this started, and we've put some news together that we wanted to chat about. So Annie, I know you've got some intel as well from over at Immutable X. What we've got some tweets going there and some exciting news. Do you want to share that with everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big things that we've seen is Immutable X. For those that aren't familiar, is an infrastructure platform. They are a layer 2 on the Ethereum blockchain. And if you're not familiar with crypto, basically that means that they're helping to roll up transactions. So instead of having to communicate back and forth with the Ethereum blockchain, which is a little bit expensive at times, they're grouping those transactions together to ensure that the costs are really cheap for people to be creating connections between their games and the blockchain. And so what that means is they can offer essentially zero cost trading of in-game items to players. And that's really an important use case for Web3 games to be able to function. If you get, a magical sword in some game and you want to sell it and swap out for a piece of land in another game, you don't want to have to pay $20 to be able to do that every time. So Immutable X is really an important part of this space. And so also they are really working on bringing in other gaming projects. Because of their position, they're frequently asked to consult and provide information to other projects. So and
have you guys
the tweet? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to, before we go to the tweet, I don't know, like, because what you're saying is so true about the being able to transact between games. Like, again, when you're playing a game, if you want to trade with someone, you don't want to be paying like ridiculous gas fees, right? But also one of the big things that I saw pretty recently, I think in the last couple of weeks, I don't know if you guys saw this, that they've started, because they had an onboarding system with MoonPay, so you could pay with your debit card, putting your funds straight onto the Immutable X wallet. So they already had that system in place. But just recently, they already had that system in place. I think I want to say in December. I forget it. I did a bit of research when I made the video about it, but I think that was implemented in December. And just a couple of weeks ago, they implemented the off ramp as well now. So now not only can you put your fiat onto your IMX wallet, but now you can actually take your funds from your IMX wallet. You can transfer the ETH back into fiat straight to your bank. So now that they've got that onboard and offboard, the only thing is with the offboard, it's still pretty regional. I think it's America, Canada. It's like three regions. I think it's like 3 regions for the time being. But now that that infrastructure is kind of there and they're building it out, I think that's going to be a massive thing for onboarding. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
That's so key. Dude, I love that. And I think like that's one of the things that as well, like getting more gamers in, like people don't want to mess with all this crypto necessarily. You just want to play the game and have fun and still be able to buy the skins or the, like you said, like weapons, whatever it might be, in a simple way. Just with like your credit card is so good. We've Blanco's Block Party, which is another Web3 game out right now. TSG we've talked about in the past. I really enjoyed playing it. But they have the same thing there. If you want to buy the NFT, the characters in game called Blancos, then you can just log onto the website, connect your credit card, and you get it in like 3 minutes. Super simple.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we do need to say none of this is financial advice. I totally forgot about that. None of this is financial advice. We're just having a conversation. Disclaimer is there. But Annie, you were saying you were going to lead us off into the tweet, right? Did you want me to share the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. So the tweet from Robbie Ferguson and the Immutable X team is that their business development team has brought in 5 major games in the last 7 days. They've got further announcements coming soon for what those are. And I think their position is that Web3 gaming, so the amount of AAA Web3 games are going to go from less than 10 to hundreds in the next 12 to 18 months. And I think that's true as well. One thing that I'd like to actually share is from a video that I put together recently. There are several sites that are available online that will show you the investable capital that's flowed into the Web3 gaming space over the past several years. And in one of the podcasts that I did recently, I shared how many games are going to be launching by genre. And obviously, this is a forecast. Game development studios are notorious for delays. But what I did is I took the average development life cycle for projects, and I ran it up against the publicly available information on Chainplay. And in that, you're able to see how many games are going to launch per genre. And so not able to...
Do you have some numbers on that?
Yeah. So I've got 300 games that have been funded at larger than $1 million over the past 2 years. Right.
That's
so
crazy.
300 games. And if you look across the different genres, essentially, I'm very much in the same mindset that Robbie and the IMX team is. Starting in the middle of 2023, you basically got launch after launch after launch for the next 2 years that are just going to be running. And you're going to see game after game hit the marketplace. Some of them, honestly, are not going to be good, and they're going to flame out and die. That's the same as in Web 2, though, right? There's no reason that that you're not going to have a lot of failures. But even if you only have 10 to 15% of those that succeed, you're talking about 40 to 50 Web3 games that are launching in the next 2 years that are going to have large player bases.
With those games, because the one of the main points that I kind of noticed about Robbie's tweet. So the thing with his tweet was he's saying that there's less than 10 AAA games right now. In the next 12 to 18 months, it's going to be more hundreds. AAA is like a pretty big tag, right? So I don't know, like Annie, out of all those 300 that you sell, that you kind of mentioned that are with 100 million, with $1 million in capital raised, would $1 million in capital raised put that in that AAA space? I'm actually not too sure.
No, definitely not. So yeah, so what I would say is that my expectation, anything that's 5 million plus would have a legitimate chance to be able to deliver title.
Yep.
And that, you know, these are also in many cases just the initial funding round. And so oftentimes, you know, you'll see a few million to get a studio up and running, and then you'll see a secondary capital raise that's going to kind of carry them all the way to launch. So you know, my guess is that potentially there could be up to 30 to 40 of those that could claim a title of a AAA game when they do launch. And you know, many of those are also going to have longer lead times than the smaller games, just because their vision is, you know, is larger. And so, you know, we can expect a lot more of those, I think, in 2024 rather than 2023. But I think the general sentiment is true. And so, you know, overall, even if his timeline's a little bit optimistic, I think he's got the right directionality in his statement by far.
Yeah. Because I think, like, Will, go for it.
Go ahead.
Nah, go for it, Will.
I was just gonna say it's really cool, like, because I was wondering, like, when he tweeted out, like, you know, what's he actually basing that off of, you know? But it's cool to see you back that up with like facts and like real legit speculation there, Annie.
Yeah, I think like the whole idea of I don't know, again, because I'm not gonna lie, Annie is definitely the numbers guy between us three. I'm more of a kind of let me use my logic and kind of see what's going on. I think with like the tweet of hundreds of AAA games between 12 to 18 months, I think that's a bit excessive. I think we can look at maybe 50 to 80, give or take. I think under the 100 mark, because AAA is not a. And also, with that tweet, is he speaking about it being released? Is he speaking about it being in development, right? Is that early stage development? Is that late stage development? There are a lot of variables that we have to consider. So with that.
Yeah, I mean, let's pump the brakes just a little bit, right? There aren't 100 AAA games in Web 2 that are out right now that are games,
exactly.
Right?
I was going to say.
I think hundreds is a little bit of an overstatement if you're going to use the AAA tag. There are certainly hundreds of Web3 games that will launch in the next couple of years, and there will be maybe a statement of, you know, a couple dozen, you know, dozen or 2 dozen that will truly claim, you know, AAA titles.
But now with the amount of games that you guys are looking at coming out, and like, because the truth is, in business in general, let's take away Web3, let's take away Web2, all of that, right? Just business. A lot of startups fail. I forget what the percentage is, but a lot of startups fail. So with all of these games coming out, like, and we can see with games today, right? A lot of games kind of come in with a big hype and they die out in a couple of months. It just is the way games kind of work out right now. The gamers are the same way.
Yeah, I mean, look at Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, how quickly, like, that game was so anticipated and it faded off and died so quickly.
Yeah, I actually didn't play it, but did it actually die so quickly? Because I know the hype was unbelievable.
Yeah, the hype exactly was unbelievable. It was like almost comparable to like if GTA 6 was going to be released like next month, because you know Rockstar did Red Dead Redemption, and it was quite a while since they released Red Dead Redemption 1, and everything just looked so good, and the game was a lot of fun to play. Like the storyline was really, really good, but people played through like the story like the campaign in like a month or so, or like quicker. And then they were released. Definitely quicker. And then they were releasing the online version of it where you could play with your friends and stuff, which I was super excited about, but it just really never like worked out, and the game faded out and died.
Actually, okay, so I was gonna take this a different direction with saying, all right, out of all these games coming out, we know that this is just the way the games are, and like we're gonna move on, right? So, and a lot of them just fail because of this. But what I'm going to ask now is, with that being the case, what do you think? Because if we're seeing this happen in Web 2 gaming, what do you think Web 3 games or studios are going to have to do to actually hold the attention of the consumers or the players? Because that's something that's going to be super important. And I don't really have a solution off the top of my head, but I'm curious, like, are there any aspects that you guys think are absolutely necessary for studios to implement to achieve this? Because it seems even Web 2 gaming studios are struggling with this. What do you guys? I don't know who wants to take that.
Will, what do you think?
I can start off. Yeah, I believe like there has to be because I know whenever I game, whenever I feel like it's pointless, like grinding, it just doesn't feel good for me. So I think if you're able to incorporate in the best possible way NFTs into the game, whether it be skins or weapons or whatever, I think more than just skins, like there has to be an actual grind. Like let's say you're playing RuneScape, for example, and you're able to like grind up and get a whip, and that's an NFT, you know, and then you go for all the god swords and whatever. So I think like if you're able to really implement NFTs into the game where it's like really addictive, like really addicting, because like there's a grind to it and you can like make money from it, or like, you know, actually like upgrade your weapons, level up your characters, sell the characters, like how a game is able to incorporate NFTs into the game, I think will be key, and how simple it will be as well, because Web3 gamers won't care about the NFTs unless it's like really simple. Well, you have to own 20 like Shiba coins. Like, no, they're not gonna, but like they won't be doing that, you know? Like it's, I think incorporating NFTs in the best way will keep gamers playing the game.
Yeah. I just want to dive a little bit deeper into that. Like, I agree with you, but why? Like, what is the psychology behind having NFTs done properly? Why are NFTs the key to making this actually, like, why is it so important to do that?
I think it's just because it can be really, really addicting. Like that's what it boils down to for me. Like grinding out, doing the progress, and it actually feels like you're getting like rewarded. You're doing something useful, because so many times when I'm gaming, it's like, why am I sitting here playing for hours and hours and hours, and then it's like it's gone. Like I could have done something like less wasteful with my time, you know. But if there's actually some element where you feel like you're getting shit done when you're gaming, I feel like it's going to be worth it more, and you will keep players playing.
Yeah.
What do you
I think? I think it comes back to that ownership point, and the in my mind, 100% the main selling point of Web3 games is that you finally get to own your own assets. And if you think about this compared to other hobbies, I was talking with my wife about this last night. If you are a carpenter or you're a gardener or whatever, when you actually pursue a hobby, whatever you produce from that hobby, you know, a painting or a table or, you know, some food, you own that, right? No one can take it back from you after you build that thing. Gaming is one of the only hobbies where you're actually producing something. Yes, it's virtual, but it absolutely is still, you know, production, that you don't own that own asset. And so with Web3, you have the ability to actually keep that thing that you're doing. And Will, that's what you kind of, you know, alluded to, is if I'm producing something that I actually can keep, instead of the gaming studio just taking it away as soon as I'm done, like that feels different. So I think Web3 games, they're actually going to have a higher initial acceptance rate, where players, when they get in, they're going to want to stay with it for longer at the start. I do think an interesting, you know, kind of parallel though is once they get done with the game and they're ready to, you know, finish, it's easier for them to sell out, because literally they can sell all their assets that they've obtained and, you know, kind of cash out of the game and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well said.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think for me, that's legitimately like the appeal for Web3 or gaming in Web3. I don't even know what to say it. Gaming, the appeal to me for gaming on the block. Yo, you see what I did there? You see what I did there? Yeah,
absolutely.
That's why you're on the podcast, bro. You're so clever.
Now, the appeal for me is the ownership, right?
I agree with you, and that's what I wanted to say too. Like, if I'm sitting here and I'm gaming, I don't want it to be gone in a week, or I don't like you know, new season or whatever, or I'm playing on a server and then I have to switch server, whatever you're playing, and it's just gone. Like you say, like you're watching a movie, you do it because it's really, really entertaining, but you don't really get anything out of it most of the times. Same thing with gaming, like it's really, really entertaining, but what if you could get something out of it as well? I like that.
Yeah, and I think one of the initial reasons a lot of gamers are critical of Web3 is Web3 development studios, they started going too far. So what I always like to remind people, if the scale goes from not owning your own assets, which is what is the case in normal Web 2 today, the opposite of that is not making $1 million. The opposite is just owning your own assets. You're talking about an entirely different structure if you want to actually earn money from playing games. And so, you know, I think actual Web3 gaming doesn't require earnings. It just requires ownership.
So with all these new Web3 games coming into this space that there's so much talks about that we mentioned as well, there's going to be a lot of conflicting values and like arguments and such. And we've seen that in the past. Was it earlier this week or like the week before that we saw the big debate between Kieran Warwick from Illuvium and Michael Wagner from Star Atlas, two of like the biggest, I want to say the two biggest Web3 games in the making right now, where they like had a heated conversation on Kagi Yan's channel. Did you guys catch that? And what are your thoughts?
Annie, you wanna take this one away first?
Yeah, so definitely TSG and I had a chance to actually join the Arcade to Earn cast. So they were doing, it was awesome, live stream coverage before and then after the debate with a bunch of other content creators. So, I think overall it was a productive use of time in the sense that there was substantive discussion about Web3 values in the gaming industry. Most of it didn't actually take place during the debate. It was the dialogue before and after. But, I think there were some really interesting topics that came up. I did a recap of it. But, first off, TSG, I'm curious, do you feel like the overall discussion positive, that it became positive? Was it just essentially shit posting carried over into, interview formats?
Yeah, so I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I thought Kagi did a horrible job. I just think it started off like with the way it started, the context in which it started, we kind of knew it was going to go that way. It wasn't going to be a proper moderated debate or even a discussion, right? It was just going to be someone being the aggressor. We kind of knew that going in. So I wasn't really surprised by it when it happened. And also I feel like it was needed because that was, again, the intention behind the context, right? So that was fine. The discussion inside the context, inside the debate, I feel like, okay, so my biggest takeaways were the questions being asked by Kieran, valid. Every single question was very valid. I didn't think there was anything kind of out of, like, it was everything that he said. There was a purpose to it. There was a point to be made, and he was going after those answers.
Right.
Michael Wagner, on the other hand, I feel like he wasn't trying to, and I said this in my discussion with Metaverse Explorer as well, he had put his feet down at the very beginning of that debate to be in a defensive mode. He wasn't going out there trying to have that discussion with Kieran. He was very much trying to sell his project and pretty much just talk about his project. I wouldn't even say answer the questions, because looking back on the debate, I'm almost certain it was just one question that was answered, and that was the team question about the team themselves. And even that, Kieran had to like push and push and push to get that straight answer. So was the discussion, and again, I'm not accusing Michael Wagner of dodging questions. From the discussions I've had with other people in the Star Atlas community in general, they kind of say that's just his general demeanor. That's how he discusses and talks. So I don't know. I'm not going to say he had bad intentions by doing it that way. It might just be the way he is. So I don't think the discussion itself was actually very enlightening. I'll say, like, I didn't go out of that. I went in wanting to learn more about Star Atlas. I went out kind of feeling like, yo, it was just a bunch of buzzwords and fluff. Like, I didn't really feel like I learned anything specific. But I do agree that the discussions before and after were really, really good. Like I mentioned, that I had a discussion with Metaverse Explorer, and a massive thank you to him, and also Arcade for getting us both on the panel and allowing us to connect after. So that discussion we had, I think, was a lot more constructive than the debate itself. So I think the benefit of the debate was actually bringing the two communities together for an event, building connections after that, having this discussions and discourse after that. I feel like that video was probably one of the most engagement in the comments that I've had ever. So like that post debate, that's where the benefit of the debate was. It was post debate.
Right.
That's what I saw. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that? Disagree? What do you guys think?
Well, I think I agree with you regarding the debate. Like, there was really not much like actual like useful coming out of it. Like, it was not a productive talk at all. Like you said, it was very much Michael being defensive, and he knew that Kieran was gonna go into it like being really, really like attacking, you know, and just hammering him with the questions. So I think he he played it cleverly in that sense, because he really got Kieran to seem like I've heard people like like the villain, exactly, and like just being negative and hating. And I do think he was a bit too offensive at times, and like, because even like at the end where Michael was just like, yeah, you guys are an amazing game, you're building a good thing, like with your AAA game coming out, and we'd love to collaborate with you guys in the future, like let's make it happen, you know, just good for all of Web3. And Kieran was like, yeah, I don't know about that, Michael, like we're not sure, like we haven't seen if you guys are like legit yet, you know, that kind of thing. Bro, yes,
I respect that. I respect that he didn't like sugarcoat it or kind of fluff about it and be like, oh yeah, nah, by the way. I respect that he kind of stuck to his guns. So I know that people might not agree with that. Like, obviously you don't agree, but that's, yeah,
I do get your point of view, but I also think it's like Web3 is going to grow. Like, we need to see them collaborate. Like, I want to see like good things come out of it too. And there was like nothing good coming out of it. It was just like you said, Wagner talking more about Star Atlas, etc., and you don't feel like you learn anything, which is funny. I'm not quite sure if I can remember a lot of things either. He was good at talking anyhow, and I think he did his job, like from the role that he had with Kieran being so attacking. I think he did decent. I think Kieran definitely started off really good and really well, but I think Michael got into it better and better. What do you think, Annie?
Yeah, so I actually pulled 3, I thought, real substantive differences out of the discussion. And I shared this just a little bit on a quick recap video right afterwards. The first one is, I think, a really interesting philosophical approach between how Web3 generally builds and how Web2 builds. So when you think about a Web2 product, it doesn't have to do with games specifically. Generally, the company will get funding, they will build a product or a service, and then they'll build a community afterwards. So they'll sell the product, and the people that buy it will then become part of their community afterwards. In Web2, it's actually the opposite. Web2 projects, they sell funding to the community. They create a community that has then an expectation of a product or a service or whatever, and then they build it in the background while the community is already there and existing. And you've seen this with NFT projects, you've seen it with Web3 gaming, but I think that's actually the fundamental difference that Kieran is approaching the space from versus Michael. So Kieran is taking actually a more traditional Web2 approach to building, which is, we're going to build it. We're not selling things until you can actually use them. And Michael's taking a Web3 approach, which is, hey, we'll sell you everything. Therefore, you're already financially invested and you're part of our community. And then we're going to build, over time with you already being here. And you just got to wait until it's ready. And then you can use the product. Right. And so I think those are two just fundamentally different approaches that the two CEOs are actually taking. And if you're building from a Web2 perspective, where you say you need to build it first because therefore that ensures the whole project isn't a scam or a rug, and then someone comes out and says, well, we're selling $200 million worth of assets, and by the way, it's going to be 5 to 10 to 15 years before you can use them. Someone building from a Web2 perspective, Kieran's got the same approach that if you were to ask, the Blizzard Activision or Microsoft or Epic Games, they would tell you the same thing that Kieran says is, you build it first, and then when you build it, then you get to sell, products on top of it.
Yeah. What do you guys think is like it's hard to say if there's a right or wrong approach, right? But if let's say you were in their position, let's say you were the founder of a gaming project, I'm curious, what direction would you guys take it and why? Like, what's your reasoning behind that? That's a good question.
Interesting question indeed. And like me having a marketing background, I'm also like, I had two different perspectives on it. Like, I know, like being in online marketing space, like there's so much shady stuff, like all these courses and everything, and you really don't know if it's legit and stuff. And so selling like NFTs and selling all those things before they're even created and done, and it's like, yeah, that can be seen as shady. On the other hand, though, one of the best ways to actually like build out your product and build out what you're doing is like by getting your, like, for example, like selling an online course, and then you sell it to the people before it's built, and then you can ask them like, hey, by the way, what do you guys want to see in the online course? I'm currently like writing it out. What do you guys want to see? And you make sure it's like the best fit. And now with the community like being invested and being like really like feeling strongly about Star Atlas, they can start researching and asking their community, like what they actually want to see, what etc. What else they want to be implemented. So I think you can do it that way, but I do understand. I do understand what Kieran's saying, but I do think it's not necessarily wrong to do what Star Atlas is doing.
Yeah. Which way would you take it? I'm curious. Which way would you specifically, if you were a founder, which way would you kind of go? What approach would you take?
I would try to get people involved first. I think it's clever because it gives them more money to build and do things in the best possible way than just grind it up from scratch, and it won't be as good. So most likely. So I think I would do like Star Atlas doing.
That's so fascinating. Yeah. Annie, I'll let you go. I'll go last.
Yeah, so I also think I would agree. Building the community is a positive. The piece that concerns me, though, is the amounts of investment and the transparency of investing in the game development and success versus buying NFTs to be able to play. And so I think maybe the fundamental difference I have is I'm okay selling things to people, to have them join your community. I mean, that's what Kickstarter does too, right? There's nothing wrong with that inherently. I do have an issue. I think if you're selling ships for $100,000, which is what some of the Star Atlas ships were, and you're saying, hey, here's a ship. I mean, obviously, your typical, gamer is not going to be spending, $100K on a ship to wait for 5 years. But I think the amounts are the concerning part for me. And the second problem that I have with that is actually, it's a long-term issue. So if you bought a ship, let's say you bought a ship for $10,000, when the game finally launches 5 or 7 years from now, that game developer is going to need to attract new players as well as everyone that stuck around for 5 years. You all of a sudden have a huge clash between, well, I bought something for, $10K 5 years ago. Therefore, you need to be selling something for $50K now that's the same power level because I took all of the risk by buying on the front end, right? That's what happens with investing when you're funding a project. Pre-seed allocation project is going to have a higher risk level, but they also get higher rewards on the back end. The problem is you can do that with financial rewards from a game, but if you do that with power creep and say, oh, therefore all of the OGs that bought these, their NFTs are the best forever, no one else is going to join your game afterwards. And so you can't actually have a sustainable game if you're doing this on an NFT side. So that's where I have more of an issue with you selling the NFTs on the front end to play the game versus saying, well, we're going to sell tokens or some sort of, funding on the front end for investors, because you don't break the game balance on the back end if you approach it that way.
Yeah, I think this is something that I'm actually not super well versed in Star Atlas at all. So this is coming from Metaverse Explorer. What he mentioned, because I brought the same point up to him, I was like, all right, you've got two options. With the ships that you're selling right now, either they're going to be the most powerful ships because they're the fair ships and you're trying to reward your early investors, but then that you're killing the game in the future because no one's going to come and play if they have no way to even catch up to you. Or if you know that you have to give the new players better ships, you're essentially knowingly selling a shitty product right now. So both options are kind of bad. And so I brought that point up to him and he said, essentially what's going to happen is, and this is what Star Atlas, I don't know if this is what Star Atlas has said, but essentially the stats of the ships are going to be relatively the same. The difference is going to be in the skins of the ships, how they look. So having a Genesis set ship design is where the value is going to come from, but the stats aren't going to change. So I think if that's the approach that they're taking, that somewhat makes a bit more sense. But if it is going to, like you say, they're going to have to implement a power creep or something like that, I can't see that working in any way. I don't know. If it is just a skin, how do you guys think that's a possible kind of loophole to get around that? Do you guys think that that's a way to make it work?
What do you think, Annie? I think you had a clever take.
Yeah, so I think the issue is the amount, right? So skin is great, and absolutely people are going to be willing to pay more for skins. The issue is the amount of
$100,000 skin, though.
We're talking about. Yeah,
that's just nuts. It's not a skin, right? You're investing, you're an investor.
That's right. Yeah, and that again, that premium. So if you're taking the risk and you're holding for 5 years, I mean, even just inflation. let's just take the inflation rates now. If you bought for $10,000 now, someone that buys the exact same ship with the exact same skin, 5 to 7 years from now, they need to be paying $20K. It's so like the question is, are you going to keep ramping up the dollar amounts to buy into the game for the same power level? If so, it's really going to be difficult to see a lot of new players come in. And if you don't have new players entering the economy, there's no sustainability there. And that's true for a Web2 game, right? You need more people to be coming in to replenish the players that are leaving your game, even if you're not growing. And so that's where I have the concerns about the long-term viability of the project from an asset standpoint. Maybe with that said, we can go into kind of the next piece that I had, which is the development team size. This was the point, 100%. And I think this was mentioned, TSG, that the only answer that I felt like we really got a lot of transparency, and Mike was fully transparent, which I appreciate. That's a tough position to be in. Was the number of developers on the team, and they're taking an outsourced model or approach to building the game, which I think is fine. You can have that type of an approach, but you've got to have a lot more overhead on your team internally. And it's also very risky if you're doing that for a long time period. So just think about this. You've got, studios that you're outsourcing, gameplay and design and everything to, and they're building a game. Well, those studios that are outsourced are going to have more turnover than if you had your own developers in-house, just by definition. And so you've got a lot more churn that's going to be going on among the development team. You also have to make sure that you're maintaining coherence across all those development studios that you're working with. So you need a pretty big internal team to be steering and collaborating with them and orienting everything. I was shocked when he said they have 4 Unreal developers on their payroll.
That was wild. That was wild.
I don't see it. I mean, I've led 100 person IT projects in my career, and I would not want to be the person who's responsible for steering a ship, pun intended, with that many external developers with only 4 in-house knowledgeable people. I don't see that working long term. So, I mean, my only mindset is this has to be a short-term approach where they're going to eventually plan to onboard more people. Otherwise, the project can't work. I don't see it happening for anywhere near the scope that they've got in mind.
Yeah. I think for like in this particular topic, like about the outsourcing, this is where I definitely agree with Kieran's approach. I think the way to go about it is building a solid in-house team. And once that's solidly built and they've got their responsibilities and everything's kind of taken care of in-house, then you start to outsource a little bit by a little bit to expand and scale, right? I think that makes a lot more sense, especially if you have your in-house developers. Because it takes time. I forget who it was in the Illuvium team that said this, but like one UE5 developer, it takes them like 20 hours or something to communicate with an outsourcing team. So that's one UE developer spending 20 hours to discuss. And that's so if you consider the Star Atlas has 4 and they had so many, and Illuvium has 2 outsourcing kind of two teams that they've outsourced to doing regions, and the scope of regions in Illuvium compared to what Star Atlas is doing is very, very different, right? The things that Star Atlas is outsourcing is vast. So if like you say, if 4 developers are in charge of managing and take care of all the liaising and things like that, that's just a lot of work. So my personal approach is definitely, if I was a founder, I would be building in-house, building that solid team, that committed, dedicated team, and then start to outsource a little bit. And I also brought this up again. I'm going to keep going back to the chat that I had, because obviously it's relevant to the debate. But like efficiency, I don't know how well, like as a content creator, if I'm sending a video out to someone to edit, they might say, "Oh, it takes 2 days." But I know it doesn't actually. I know if you get your head down and get your job done, because it's your work, you're going to put more effort into it. And we can get it done in a couple of hours. But if you outsource it, they don't care about the product as much as you do. Why should they? It's not their company. It's not their product. They don't care. Mm-hmm. So why would they work twice as hard to get it done as efficient as possible to the quality that that you want it to? It just seems improbable that's the case. And again, I go back to why I think Illuvium does it well. and I speak about Illuvium because that's what I know the most, but like they incentivize their team members with a solid salary and tokens. So again, they're essentially, if you change the word tokens to equity, the developers are getting equity in the company. Why would they not double down, work 7 days a week, 24 hours? Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Because they have that equity in the company, they're more willing and incentivized to work harder to make it as efficient and make the quality as high as possible. So to me, that's another massive, massive benefit of having an in-house team. A majority of your team in-house compared to outsourcing. So they're probably the two biggest things, like the quality and the efficiency. And also there's a third thing about perspective of, the third thing about perspective of the outside world looking at you. Like if you're outsourcing everything, are you really building your game? Are you, like,
Right.
and it might not be a big thing, but definitely based on perspective, like it does change the way people perceive you and your company. So, but the two major things are definitely quality and efficiency that I consider when it comes to outsourcing. But Will, what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, obviously, I'm not gonna say too much because I don't lead, like I don't create games, right? I don't lead a team like that, and I think you got a great approach and like you know more about it. And TSG, I think what you said makes sense as well. Honestly, I didn't really understand why Kieran was focused so dang much on the interview about the like fact that they were outsourcing, and it was funny to hear him as well like ask Michael about it, like was this always your guys' plan, like to outsource almost everything? And he didn't really like he has said like, oh well, we always intended to do Star Atlas in a cost-effective way, essentially. And I mean, as long as it's good developers, like I think it's fine to outsource, but I do think what you said, TSG, is right. Like get a solid team like first, and then outsource like maybe the smaller things or like things that take a lot of time, but it's not necessarily important that it's like it's not super high quality job, you know. It's like someone else could do it just as good and just like save the money, save the time, and then get your really good developers working on the important stuff. And what you said is like, they're not going to put in the time, sweat, and blood that the tears that your own developers are, especially if they're like getting equity and tokens while they're doing it. Like they're going to build it until they're proud about it, not until like it works, but they're actually proud about it.
Just saying that. Go.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of a strange approach, and again, this has nothing to do with gaming, but just industry in general. Normally, you would hire internally to your company every role that you're planning to keep long term, and so if you're building a game and you're planning to keep 200 developers long term, but you're gonna spike up to needing 300 developers for a 1 year period. You hire to that 200 level, and then you outsource that last 100 because this isn't a long-term thing. We just need to get this particular piece of the work done, and then it's not going to be a long term full-time contract unless something changes. And then maybe the product grows and you need to bring those additional 100 people on board. But it is and just very confusing to me why you would not staff to at least your minimum running levels internally. And that's, again, nothing to do with gaming, just business in general. I don't work in a gaming industry today, but my industry and every other one that I know, you always want to staff your organization for exactly the reason TSG mentioned. People are incentivized if it's their company, their brand, their product, more than someone who's contracting.
Exactly. And also, I think like the outsourcing, like Will, you kind of put me on this, like just now when you was saying what you were saying, like outsourcing the tedious jobs, which is not really like you say, anyone can do it. That makes sense. Like again, if you're just kind of touching things up or kind of creating like a rough outline and then bring it back into your team to really like clean it up and make it real, that's fine. The tedious job's fine. But if you're kind of outsourcing the main thing, like the bulk of the work, it just seems wild, right? I don't know. It's like, for me, imagine for us, we're all content creators. Like we can outsource things like thumbnails or editing. Like it makes sense to do that. Can you imagine if we outsourced, yo, man, can you make a video for me? Like record yourself.
Exactly. Yes.
That's just ridiculous. Like it's so absurd to think about it. So I think I look at it the same way. And again, I'm not a game developer. I might be wrong, but That's just my thoughts. And again,
No,
there's no
I
shout at Star
100% agree.
Atlas. I want them to succeed, but obviously we do need to be objective and share our opinions.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And it's like exactly what you said. Like if we outsource creating the video, I listened to Mr. Beast on Joe Rogan's show the other day, and he said the exact same thing. Like he tries to outsource as much as he can so that he can spend time on the most important thing, which is for him creating videos. Ideally, he should only be creating videos. So ideally, like you've got your team, the developers, working on the like really important things that you should not be outsourcing. Now,
Core
I want
gameplay
Star Atlas
mechanics.
as well to succeed. And I like Michael Wagner, super intelligent guy, obviously, and knows what he's doing. So I really do hope it all turns out well. And he knows more than we do about it. So I just hope it works out well, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think, just to be clear, I also have the same opinion. My desire is that all of the Web3 gaming projects that are in existence today pan out. And not all of them are going to, have millions of, but overall, I want them to work because that increases credibility of the space. And I think that's the best for gamers in general, to have ownership of their own assets versus having these game studios, retain the rights to them. So, I think that's really a good opportunity for us to talk about the largest statement that's been put out in my mind to date on NFT integration within games. And so, we saw this just pop up in the last week where Minecraft, and so I think everyone probably knows what Minecraft is. Most people also know that they're owned by Microsoft. They basically came out and said, hey guys, we appreciate your interest, but including those projects that have already started building, we're not allowing any NFTs in Minecraft going forward. So let's talk about, what did the statement say? Why did they say it publicly? And then why do we think they said it, from a real standpoint? What's actually behind that statement? So if one of you two want to start us off with a discussion for it?
I'll jump in real quick and then I'll throw it to Will, because I actually didn't even know about this until Will brought it up. My biggest takeaway from this, though, is damn, Sandbox has a free runway now. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. So the thing with Sandbox is my biggest statement with all of them, my biggest concern with them was they're so like Minecraft that when Microsoft decides to flick the switch for NFTs, like Minecraft already has a huge market share of the Web2 gamers. So once they turn that on, they're gonna kind of like Sandbox is gonna get blown out of the water. But now with Minecraft saying they're not going down that road at all and they're against it, they're objectively against it, Sandbox has free run now. Like they just kind of, as long as they keep doing their thing and they succeed at what they're planning on doing, they have free reign. So I think this news is massive for Sandbox. So yeah, we'll have a look at the statement here. I'll scroll down. We're not gonna have to read it. Yeah.
Maybe, Will, you want to summarize what they said, basically?
Yeah, essentially, like what I got from it is like they don't want to incorporate NFTs because it can be seen like as like elitist and like exclusive. Like, oh, well, not everybody is going to have the money or like is going to want to put in the money to buy NFTs. And if that's the case, like it's going to exclude people from like people are gonna not feel in the community because they don't have this and that. And like I think the opposite is true. Like there's so many opportunities for Minecraft with NFTs. Like right now you're renting a server. If you want to play with your friends, like only you can rent a server, but you have to build everything and stuff. And like, that's fine, but I'm not a world-class builder on Minecraft and I'm not that creative. And I don't have the time to build all these crazy buildings, but heck, I would love to play in those environments where there's like castles and, maybe like they build a Simpson town over, like, I would love to play in those environments with my friends on our own server. What if really good builders could, as an NFT, sell a server, like sell a map, like they build it up and then they can sell the server to you as an NFT and you can play that with your friends. There's so many things they could do with it. So I don't think it would be like excluding, and like you see it in games anyway. Like what, like if kids can't afford like skins or don't want to put in money for the skins, like they can still play the game. Like I think it's stupid.
Yeah. Because I think the whole NFT thing doesn't make it a pay-to-play game. It's just
Definitely
another
not.
layer to it, right? It's just like you can take the Fortnite route where, Fortnite's on Epic Games, right? I know Epic Games said they're for it. So I'm going to assume Fortnite's definitely going to go down that road. It seems like it's too obvious for Fortnite to go down that road. But yeah, just make it like a Fortnite thing where the game is still free. Anyone can play it, but it's just like you say, if you want to make things for free, do that. If you want to make things and own it as an NFT, you should be allowed to do that. And not only is it beneficial for the players, and this is the thing that I talk to a lot of people, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Annie, as well. Like a lot of Web2 gamers, like the concept of owning it's just ownership. Like take away NFTs, take away that word completely. Wouldn't you want to own what you spend your time like doing in games? It just seems crazy to me that they're so against it.
Especially
It
in
just
Minecraft.
bugs me out. Yeah, like people are building Hogwarts and stuff. Like it's beneficial for the player and it's beneficial for the business. Imagine like, let's say Warner Brothers makes a Hogwarts in Minecraft and you could like sell sections of it. Or if you build like a Quidditch pitch in a Quidditch game, I don't know how Minecraft works. I've never played it, but let's just say that's a thing that could be done. You could sell that to different people as a package. And then if you're saying, well, you buy it and you're done with it and you find out that I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, you can sell it to me. You make the money, they get royalties from it. Yo, everyone is winning forever. Like it's so crazy. Like it's like a forever win situation. It blows me away that people don't see that. But Annie, if I keep talking, I'll ramble. So
no, you're good.
Take it away.
I think you hit on the main point that I want to touch on, TSG. So initially when I heard it, I had the same opinion. This is like an odd ideological position to take, because it's like saying, because only rich people bought the first televisions, therefore, TV is not compatible with an inclusive society. Like, of course, that's crazy. Like, just because people that bought the first of something paid more, that isn't at all a sign that that product is bad for consumers. Right. And so that's basically what I heard at first. And I'm like, this is written by some, crazy philosophy major who's got, like a legal background. And they're like, oh, we got to stay away from this thing because it's bad for everyone. But then I started, thinking a little bit more. I remembered Microsoft actually bought Activision Blizzard not 6 ago. And as part of that, their stated goal was they wanted to create the metaverse. Right. And so let's actually take a step back, because initially I was thinking this is just like some, crazy corporate speak or whatever. Now I actually have a very different take on this than 4 days ago after some more research I did. So the question is, if we assume that Microsoft understands that NFTs are not in and of themselves exclusionary, which they have to, you have to understand, just because someone chooses to make 100 NFTs doesn't mean that another person couldn't make 1 billion of them and say anyone in the world who wants to have this NFT can have it for free or whatever price. The technology isn't the issue here. And so if we assume that Microsoft isn't stupid, the question is, why did they actually put the statement out? What's in it for them? Right. And so here's my take on it now. I actually think this statement is the opening salvo in a declaration of war on the open metaverse concept by Microsoft. So up until now, they've taken the approach, we want to be building the metaverse with everyone else. That's great. Behind this is the fact that right now, Minecraft has a moat around all of their assets. So I will, as you mentioned, if I want to build, Hogwarts and I want to sell it, the only person that can profit from that is the builder, but then Minecraft takes a cut of it on top. If that Hogwarts NFT becomes an NFT, becomes an actual NFT on the blockchain, though, now that cut no longer goes to Microsoft. That cut goes to OpenSea, or it goes to whatever other NFT marketplace, and the secondary residual sales go with the creator and then the original purchaser who's now reselling it to somebody else. And so I think that the full reason is Microsoft doesn't want to give up. They have $160 million annually that they make in Minecraft. A large portion of that is from secondary sales on the marketplace. I think they want to retain that mode as long as they can. And they've also now told us, not openly, but in a closed manner, they want to own their own version of the metaverse. The same way that Meta and Zuckerberg said, we're going to own our own version of the metaverse. We're going to be the gatekeepers for it. And the question that gamers are going to have over time is, do you want to pay where 60% of the proceeds go to Meta and to Microsoft and these other Web2 studios? and the designers and builders get really peanuts on what they're creating, and you as a purchaser, you can't resell it afterwards? Or do you want to play games on an open metaverse where you actually can own the items? The builders get whatever royalties, they can set that, and it's fully transparent on OpenSea. You can see everything that's available. What's the percentage that someone's taking all along the way, as opposed to this hidden middleman who's taking out 10, 20, 50% plus of
Meta was 60, right?
For these transactions. Yeah, it's crazy. So I actually have a very different take on this now that I really digested everything than I did a week ago. And so I think it's going to be a huge issue. We're going to look back on this and say this and the meta announcements of their metaverse concepts are sort of opening salvos in closed metaverse versus the open metaverse philosophies that we see emerging.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, man. I think that's very, very much a possibility of what they're doing, because the moment you said that, I thought of Meta. And the thing is that I think of as well, and I know a lot of Web3 native people are very against this because they kind of want to go full decentralization. But I think centralized and decentralized blockchains, essentially, or metaverses, I'll say that, centralized and decentralized metaverses are both going to exist. The same way that an Xbox and a PlayStation both exist. Right. Like if there's a game that comes out on the Microsoft metaverse that I really want to play, I might not be against playing it if I really want to play that game, right? I don't need to be exclusive to one side. So, and also I think it could actually be beneficial. I'm actually curious. I was going to ask you guys, do you think they're going to flip on that statement at some point? But I think it's actually beneficial to do that, because having that controlled and centralized metaverse is going to help onboard a lot of people into the technology. And once they get their hands on the technology, then they can make the decision on where they want to go with it. And look at it like the smartphone, right? Like the iPhone. Like a lot of people were super against smartphones and iPhones, but once they got their hands on it, they got used to the technology. Now you see people with Huawei's, you see people with Samsungs. I don't know what else other brands are popping right now. That's pretty much it, right? Nokia's. No one's using Nokia's anymore. But you know what I mean, right? Like once they got used to the technology, they were able to kind of make their own decisions. Same with like social media. You see the same thing, man. I hate Facebook. All right, man. Now you see people on TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn. It's just kind of getting that first taste. So I think there is, even if they decide to go that centralized metaverse route, I'm not against it. I personally will spend majority of my time in the open metaverse, but I appreciate what they're doing because I know there is going to be benefits to that. Will, your thoughts?
I think that is a possibility that they're doing that. Very interesting take, Annie, on the whole thing. I appreciate you researching and giving us that perspective on it, because I did not think about that and I did not research that deeply for those specific reasons. I think you're right, and I think what you said, TSG, is good. Like getting people used to the technology, getting people used to the whole NFT and Web3 thing, because just like you said, smartphones. And I remember when AirPods, the wireless AirPods dropped, they're like, what the heck? Those are stupid. They're gonna fall out. I'm gonna lose them. And now I love my AirPods. I would never have the.
Anyone with wired headphones, man, we think they're living in 1990, fam. Wires, what's going on? Well, are you okay?
Yeah, dude, exactly. So I think it's great. If they're doing it, if it's to onboard more people, if it works long term for it. But I think we're gonna see them turn around and realize they might not call them NFTs. They're gonna call them something. I hope they turn around, and I do believe they turn around. But what you said, TG, in the beginning of this chat as well is Sandbox. They're going to benefit much from it. Yeah. That's just gonna be nutty. They're gonna I hope so, at least. The more Web2 gamers get into Web3, and if they like Minecraft, if they're the Minecraft gamers, those people are going to jump and start playing Sandbox.
It's the same thing that I said, Will, in your the interview that I had with you on your channel about Illuvium, why I think Illuvium is going to be successful because of the Tesla example I gave you, right? I think Sandbox now has that. Yeah. Sandbox is so far ahead in that genre, and if the only competitor was Minecraft, and now they're taking their hat out of the race. It's man, you're so far ahead now. No one else in that genre is going to catch up. There's no way. You have the infrastructure, you have the celebrities like Snoop Dogg that are already kind of building that community. Like, man, that's going to be so hard. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very, very difficult to lose that market share now that you've captured it like that.
Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing that with like Epic Games now. They countered as well on this. The CEO, Tim Sweeney, I believe, he countered on it. It's like, no, we would never do that. Like, we would never take, I can't remember exactly what he said, but like take away the power from like the developers and like the gamers. Like, it's there for them to use, whether you like NFTs or not. Like, we're not going to ban them. We would never do that. And they've taken the other approach. Like when Steam said like, no, we're not, like no NFTs and stuff, or whatever they said on our store, like Epic Games countered it and like, no, we're open to NFTs, we're open to Web3 games on our Epic Games store. And we saw them acquire Play Blanco's Block Party, like mentioned earlier. They acquired them, and that's coming to the Epic Games store. So they're benefiting from like what Steam said, like, no, we're not going to do it. They're like taking like using the advantage of that, like, yeah, okay, we'll welcome you guys, like come play on our store instead. And same thing with Sandbox. Minecraft saying like, no, we don't want that. Sandbox, okay, well, they're opening up the door, obviously, and they are going to get those gamers.
I think this is also an interesting signal for the maturity of the space, right? So I'm going to actually jump back to a Gandhi quote. He said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. We're already at step 3, right? If you go back 3 years or go back 5 years ago to CryptoKitties, how many statements did Microsoft put out talking about banning NFTs when CryptoKitties was a thing? 0, right?
Yeah.
That was at the ignore stage, right? And then Axie came out and it was at the laugh stage. And they said, yeah, this is stupid. No one actually cares. There's no sustainability. There's no real gameplay here. Now, the incumbent companies are trying to ban innovation, or they're essentially trying to co-opt it so that they're the only ones that can use it, because that's the point at which their market share is threatened. And so this is common. Again, doesn't matter the industry. Incumbent companies are always going to try and ban innovation if it threatens their market share and it becomes a realistic threat to them. If it's something that they're worried is going to take 0.5% of their market share, they don't care. They're going to ignore it. But now it's at the point where they're starting to see this is going to be a real problem. The question is, how do they respond? And so, I think it's very interesting that we're already at the point, when you look at companies are either trying to co-opt it or, completely ban the whole concept of NFTs, because the space is really progressing.
Yeah. No, 100%. Do you guys think that, like, the same way that Yahoo at some stage was, the same way that Yahoo at one stage was super big and now it's gone, right? It's dead. Like, companies die. It does happen. And I know it's absurd to talk about it because they seem so big and solidified right now. But can you see companies like, and they're not going to die because they have other avenues of revenue, but can you see companies like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo? Can you see them? Nintendo's mainly gaming, so that one really could die, but Sony and Microsoft not really. But do you think they could be losing like the majority market share that they have right now? Do you think that that's a possibility? Can you see that happening?
I mean, you mentioned Nokia, and they were like the biggest mobile brand, if I'm not wrong, like back in the day. And now they basically don't exist.
It's done. That's what I mean. Yeah,
exactly. At the same time, though, we have to think about like Microsoft and Sony, all these companies now, because there's like more money in the marketplace, like in business, they like their market share, like, or like the amount of people that buy their stuff and the amount of money that they have is way bigger than Nokia had back in the day, although they like still like they were dominating. But like now there's more money flowing and they're bigger companies, but they're still like this same size of what Nokia used to be. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think you're probably going to see a few companies that actually flame out completely and just go bankrupt. More often than not, though, I think there's probably strong enough IP for a number of these different studios and platforms that it's more going to be a gradual decline.
Yeah.
So, so it may be like 5 years from now, a company loses 20% of the market share that they had before, right? So they're at an 80% valuation. And then, over the next 15 years, that drops by a few percent per year. And then eventually they go out of business. But I don't think you're going to see like all of a sudden everything ends. Like kind of this is the Netflix blockbuster, storyline where it's like, it went really gradually at first, and then all of a sudden the company just said, you know what, we can't compete because we were too slow to innovate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have another one though, like Skype. Think about Skype. That was the biggest like video call and like messaging app back in the day. And like now, I don't know. I don't think so. At least like nobody uses Skype. Like it's all Discord and all these other apps.
Even Microsoft owns them and they don't use them, right? I think
exactly. They acquired Skype and they don't even use them anymore. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. I think you'll end up seeing a lot of the same approaches where many of these studios that they're going to either try and depend on their existing moats, like I said, where they've got content, they've got a very clear ownership, and markets that they want to maintain as long as possible, and they're going to kind of stick their head in the sand and say we're not going to change. And you're going to see some that try and co-opt the approach, like Facebook going to Meta and saying no, we're going to be the metaverse. Really, though, it's pretty uncommon for incumbent companies to be able to fully embrace new technology and get the most value out of it. It's rare that you see that innovation unless there's a very heavy investment standing. For instance, in the automotive industry, you rarely have new players. Tesla's kind of the exception, where you have such investment heavy requirements and experience heavy that's difficult for new entrants to enter the space. That's not true in a gaming studio development sense. You can have a gaming studio that launches with 5 people that's wildly successful in just a matter of a few years.
Yeah, because the game is so good.
Yeah. Pretty much essentially what happened with Fortnite, right?
Exactly. Came out of nowhere. Yeah.
100%.
You guys, amazing chat. I can't wait to do more of these chats in the future. We're going to do weekly episodes. We're going to post them brought all of our channels. So this one obviously is coming up with TSG's channel, but then we will be mixing up. Maybe the next one is on mine or on Annie's, and we'll be rotating. So make sure you guys subscribe to all 3 of our channels to make sure you catch all the Gaming on the Blocks episodes from the podcast here. The links are, of course, down below in the description. TSG, Annie, any last words?
Man, thank you guys. I had such a good time, man. I'm really happy we decided to get together and do this. I've said this to you guys off camera, but I'll say it on camera for our first episode. I respect both of you guys. I think you guys are super hardworking. I think you guys are super knowledgeable. And honestly, I couldn't imagine doing this with any 2 other people. So I respect and have love for both of you guys. And I'm really excited for what we do in the future. So anyone that is watching, subscribe to both of these guys. Annie, I'll let you say your last words and we can bounce.
No, I would just echo that same sentiment. This for me is the start of something really exciting. And as I said at the start, it's really needed for our space. We've got to have good influencers and content creators sharing not just specific titles, but talking about the challenges and the issues that are facing the industry as a whole. And so that's what I'm most looking forward to over the next years with you guys. So thanks. Will, over to you.
Will, Will. Say some good stuff about us, man. Go for it.
Yes, likewise. As I said, I'm newer into the Web3 space than you guys are, and I'm looking up all the different content creators, and a lot of the content that I see coming out is just not that good. Creating content for the past 3 years, a lot of content in the crypto space is not that good. And like you said, Annie, we need more influencers and creators talking about this stuff, having the discussion, opening up different questions for other people. So with that said, I think what you guys are doing is amazing. And if you guys just even thought this episode was okay, just like crypto, we're early into the podcast, and it's just going to get better. So make sure you guys subscribe and keep tuned in for all of the Gaming on the Blocks episode. With that said, I appreciate all of you guys for watching and listening in, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Peace.